Whilst Gran Turismo 7's car prices have been notorious for the longest time, one of the latest cars to GT7 really highlights the absolute scam it's become. However, before we get into this video, I'm trying to get this channel to 60,000 subscribers before the end of this year, and we are so incredibly close to it. So if you like this kind of content, feel free to leave a like, subscribe, and turn your notifications on. Anyway, let's get to it. Now, if there's one thing that's going to be a major roadblock to your Gran Turismo 7 progression, more than likely it will be car prices. Let's be totally honest here, GT7's in-game economy has never been great, and in fact when the game first launched, it was absolutely diabolical. Now, Polyphony have taken measures to go ahead and improve it over time, but again, it's still nowhere near good enough to actually give you meaningful progression. We have a bunch of cars priced at 20 million credits plus, which in-game is around about 6 to 8 hours of grinding for one single car. And there's over 500 of them in game. Now, one of the big claims by Polyphony when it comes to Gran Turismo 7 is that its car prices are realistic. It mainly relates to the Legends dealership or the Hagerty dealership, in which some of those cars can go up or down depending on its value at that specific time. We've seen some cars that started off at about 12 million credits go upwards of 20 million, and some that were a bit more expensive actually decrease. We even see some of your more daily type of vehicles costing a lot less, somewhere ranging from maybe 10,000 credits upwards of 40 to 50k for more of these sports alternatives. However, that's only really true for a handful of cars in game. In fact, GT7's car prices are coming across as an absolute scam at this point, and it's one of the latest additions to GT7 that really highlights this issue. Now, first of all, we're going to go to the Hagerty collection or the Legends car dealership. Of course, these prices can increase and decrease over time depending on the real world valuation. Now, this was a pretty tame time in the Legends dealership. There wasn't too much in terms of the mega expensive cars, only one, which was the Mercedes F1 car, and I did actually go ahead and fact check a bunch of cars in the Legends dealership over this time period. Now, after checking a lot of them, some of them came in very close to their real world valuation, but I did notice that some of the more expensive ones were completely inflated in GT7 by a massive amount. Now, the next car I'm going to show you is in Brand Central. This is the Nissan R34 GTR. Now, it costs 450,000 credits. That's by no means a cheap car. But let's be honest, this thing has a massive cult status thanks to movies and games over the years, that the real world prices of this car is going absolutely through the roof. And again, it's very much in line with its real world price. Now, if we quickly look at the in-game stats, it has a PP rating of 523.47, a displacement of 2,568cc, four-wheel drive, 336 brake horsepower, and weighs 1,560 kg whilst being turbocharged. Now, bear those stats in mind because we're going to do a bit of a comparison in a second. But as for the most recent update to GT7, we received the R34 GTR Z-Tune, which is essentially a Nismo-fied version of the R34, perhaps one of the most ridiculous GTR badge cars to ever exist. So if we head over to the brand new Nismo Brand Central dealership, we can see that this car now costs 3 million credits, which is absolutely ridiculous, almost 10 times more expensive than the already pre-existing R34 GTR in game. If we look at the stats, there's not too much difference either. A PP rating of 591.24, 2,771cc, four-wheel drive again, 493 brake horsepower, of course this being the most powerful version of the R34, 1,600 kilograms and turbocharged. So you're getting a slight difference for almost 10 times the price. Now, I'll be honest, when the update came out, I just went ahead and purchased every single colour and variant of the Z-Tune, and one thing I didn't notice at the time was the price, until I checked my overall credits and saw they'd gone down by around about 10 million. Now, of course, this got me wanting to do a bit of research to see if Polyphony's claim of realistic car prices still held up today. Now, of course, the first thing I did, like I mentioned, was go to the Legends dealership over a period of days to go ahead and compare those cars to their real world counterparts. And again, while some were very accurate, some were completely off. But what about the Z-Tune then? Now, the most up-to-date news article on the sale of a Z-Tune that I could find was from 2022, and just take note that the initial price for this car was misreported. So it goes on to say a US car collector who reportedly paid $1.985 million for a Nismo Z-Tune has set the record straight, saying that while that particular Z-Tune is the most expensive example ever purchased, the original reports are greatly exaggerated into how much he paid. The Z-Tune is the rarest of all R34 models. With only 19 built, Nismo wanted to make 20, which is a nice round number, but in the end it could only source 19 used R34 V-Spec 2 cars. Demand for the R34 GTR models is exceptionally high, but there's a good reason for that. We'll dig into this phenomenon later, but for now you need to know that this Z-Tune broke the record and then some. It's not odd to see an R34 go for supercar money these days, and some of the rarer models are worth around $400,000. The article also mentioned that our last record of a Z-Tune up for sale shows that interested parties were willing to pay up to $600,000, but that was 7 years ago. Again, pre-COVID times. This was post-COVID and everything just went through the roof. So again, just take note that the top of this article did mention that the reported $1.985 million was greatly exaggerated. So more than likely he didn't pay anywhere near that for this car. So in terms of GT7's economy, is this car worth 3 million credits in game? Absolutely not. It is massively inflated, and of course there is the argument that it's a duplicate car. So after doing my research, I then wanted to go ahead and do a bit of a practical experiment. Could the performance of the Z-Tune justify the almost 10 times price increase in game? So it was time to lap both the V-Spec and the Z-Tune around Suzuka completely fresh out of Brand Central. And of course, up first would be the V-Spec. This has been in GT7 since day one. It's a pretty fantastic road car. And truthfully, this R34 feels as good as it was when it was launched. It's incredibly precise, the four-wheel drive system still to this day feels incredibly advanced, it's got a good enough top speed and incredible acceleration. It's really not difficult to see why the R34 is such a loved JDM icon. I'll always stand by this, the R34 in GT7 is one of the best driver's car. But what about the Z-Tune then? Of course, this is a Nismo performance variant, it looks incredibly aggressive, sounds fantastic, and of course has over 100 brake horsepower extra over the V-Spec. But how did it handle around Suzuka? Admittedly, not as well as what I thought. Now the Z-Tune's not bad by any means, it's still a fantastic car overall, but I did feel like the V-Spec was just much more precise and overall the better of the two to drive on track. And well, honestly, the Z-Tune just felt far too skittish. It was constantly trying to kick out the rear end and constantly just felt that all of that power it's been given wasn't being put to proper use. But what about when it came to crossing the finish line then? Which of these would be faster and what are the actual differences then? Well, when it comes to my Suzuka testing, both of these fall in the 600 pp category. The R34 GTR Z-Tune with 591.24 pp and sports mediums did it in a time of 216.988, and the V-Spec, well, that has a pp rating of 523.47 and runs on sports hards. That did it in a time of 224.802. So this gave me an idea. I spent an extra 4,500 credits to put the V-Spec on the exact same tyre compound as the Z-Tune and went out to do one more lap. Now, one thing I will say for sure is that the V-Spec once again continued to be an excellent driver's car. It felt incredibly precise and actually felt that it was working better on the mediums than the Z-Tune. Again, it might just be the reduction in power, but it felt like it could get absolutely every bit of that 300 plus brake horsepower down on the tarmac and then some. It felt absolutely fantastic and even better on these medium compounds. But what about the overall lap time then? Well, I can confirm quite obviously we saw an improvement over the standard lap time. The PP rating went to 542.16 on the sports mediums and did it in a time of 221.4 dead. That is still an improvement on the standard lap time and still slightly slower than the Z-Tune. Now, of course, the total price of that build there was about 455,000 credits, which really isn't much, especially in comparison to the Z-Tune. So I guess the conclusion that we have to take away here is that the Nismo Z-Tune might just be one of the biggest single scams in Gran Turismo 7 period. But maybe I'm wrong on that. Can you justify the 3 million price tag, even though again, it isn't even in line with the real world pricing? Well, let me know in the comment section down below. Huge thank you to all my channel members. I'll see you in the next one. Take care guys. Peace.